This is a weekly STEP meeting. Our format is as follows. A speaker is asked to talk for 25 to 30 minutes on the STEP of that week, followed by discussion or questions until 7 p.m. You can find these weekly meetings on our YouTube page, the Conscious Contact Speaker Group of Doylestown. And don't forget to smash the like button, subscribe, and share. That brings us to the speaker portion of the meeting. On this day, April 26th, 2021, in Doylestown, Pennsylvania, at the Monday night 6 p.m. Stay Alive Literature and Step Group at St. Paul's Lutheran Church. Tonight's speaker is Ed, and he will be sharing his experience on Step 4. So please help me welcome Ed.
All right, I'm Ed Kavanaugh. I'm definitely an alcoholic. I got a sobriety date of January 21st, 2014. I got a home group, Life or Death of Alcoholics Anonymous in Philadelphia. Had a sponsor, went through my steps. So I'm here to talk about Step 4. And you know, a lot of times you'll hear people share that they're on 1, 2, and 3. And really, you never really complete 3 until you start 4. And it says that though our decision was a vital and crucial step, it had little permanent effect unless once followed by a strenuous effort to rid of the things that's been blocking us from our higher power. Liquor is just a symptom. So 1, 2, and 3 are cool. But until I get down to the causes and conditions, the reasons why I can't hear my creator, my higher power, guiding me along the way, because I'm so selfed up and so worried about how I'm going to send my kids to high school 10 years from now. How am I going to pay my bills? Am I ever going to be a good father? Is my mom ever going to let me back at their house for Thanksgiving? And all these things clog my head up, my space up, and I never hear my higher power. So I was lucky enough to have a sponsor. This is my first time in recovery. I never walked into an AA room, never walked into a detox, rehab, nothing. I went to jail 15 times. And the 15th time I came back and I did what the lady in there told me to do, and she said, raise your hand, tell somebody you need a sponsor. And I've been sober ever since. So relapse don't have to be a part of your story. But I was lucky enough to have a sponsor come up to rehab once a week, every Sunday, to do step work. So by the time I got out in 60 days, I was through my steps and sponsoring people. And thank God I had that type of recovery, because, you know, I don't get drunk because I want to ruin everybody's life and not support my kids and be a terrible husband or a father. I drink because I'm maladjusted to life. I can't handle life pressures, which would be like a 40-hour work week, crying babies, a girl who might nag, over expectations on myself. So those are the reasons why I drink. So when I sit down and write this 4-step, I wasn't a real resentful guy. Like I said, I had a long, hard run before I walked into recovery. I wasn't blessed enough to come in and out, at least get 6 months of breathing room before I went back out again. Mine was straight through from 15 to 32. It was tough the whole entire time, and I had 2 kids and a wife with me. So when I sat down to do this, I wasn't real resentful. I was resentful at my mom and dad for getting a divorce, because I thought if they stayed together, I would have went to Catholic high school, and if I would have went to Catholic high school, I would have graduated high school, and then I would have went to college, and I wouldn't have, which is not the case. They paid my way through Catholic grade school just to get me out of grade school. I had no intentions of going on to high school. I knew what I was going to do when I got older, but as the alcoholic I am, I held on to that, and I said those are the reasons why I behaved the way I behaved. My parents, meanwhile, my dad was beating my mom every day, and I expected her to stay there because I wanted to go to Catholic high school. That's how selfish person I am. So I didn't have too many. I had like my mom, my dad. I had a couple friends who I thought just disappeared on me. Come to find out they had like 15 years sober and they've been in recovery since like 2002. I'm like, man, I really missed the bus on this one. And so I wasn't super resentful, and I could see how they could say it's a number 1 offender and things of that nature. I understand why they say that, because they don't even know you feel that way, and you're carrying around this load with you all the time. But for me, it was a fear thing. And when I sat down, I only had an hour at the rehab, and I remember when he came up and I handed him an empty fears paper, and he was like, nothing on there. I said, not afraid of nothing. He's like, come on, Ed, we only got an hour, man. Like, seriously? I said, well, I'm not afraid of nothing. What do you want from me? We want to make something up? And this is where good sponsorship comes in handy, you know what I mean? Because he's like, we're not talking about physical fears, we're not talking about pit bulls, sharks, and guns. You know what I mean? We're talking about things that keep you up at night, you know what I mean? Things that, you worry about all the time. And as he started explaining everything, they started flowing. You know, fear of never retiring or having a 401k or, you know, excuse me, letting people down, things of that nature. And to me, my whole life was ran on fear. I don't have any character defects or resentments if I don't have fear backing those up. I don't punch on people unless I'm afraid of what someone else might say. I don't steal off you unless I'm afraid I'm going to be broke. So my whole life was driven by fear, and as I got to sat down and talk with a sponsor, man, I look back on my life and realized that every terrible decision I ever made was all fear-based. My whole entire life, all the jail time I did, all the bad decisions I made, all because I was afraid of one thing or another. But so I started writing them down while I was there, and I had my little character defects list, and you know, like I say again, it all reverts back to the fear for me. Like, my character defects, I only had, you know, my sponsor didn't say, like, in the 12 and 12, it says you give your sponsor, like, the surface stuff. I was a liar, I was a thief. You and everybody else in Alcoholics Anonymous. You know what I mean? Why don't we dig a little deeper and find out something deeper? So I had, like, a lot of things of, like, you know, always putting other people down to make myself feel better. I didn't have much, didn't have a lot of money, didn't have a lot of girlfriends. So in that case, I would make sure to point out your shortcomings or the way you looked and things of that nature to get laughs out of me, you know, so I could get some laughs so people would pay me some attention. And I remember, you know, when I was writing that down, I told my sponsor, I said, and this is how, like, sounds stupid and people laugh when I say it, but like this is how delusional I was. Like, it was unbelievable my thought, the way I used to think. And I was like, well, Eichmann, listen, if I'm in a room full of 40 people and I'm only making fun of one person, 39 people are having a good time laughing at this one guy. So percentage wise, and he was like, what? He's like, really? Did that just come out of your mouth? I'm like, think about it. They're like, everybody in there is having a good time except for one person. You know, and he's like, man, he's like, that's unbelievable you would even say that. And so we started talking, and that was most of my, you know, my character defects, was always pointing out other people's shortcomings, because like I said, I didn't have a lot of money, I didn't have a lot of nice clothes, I didn't really go to high school, and the character defects that I have, and it talks about it in the 12 and 6 and 7 and things of that nature, like, these made me the person I was. You know, we talked about this last Thursday when we were talking on the 4-step, and a lot of people say these are my skills to get through life when I'm out there. These character defects carry me through whatever they are. And mine weren't so much that. Mine were so much as I wasn't nothing special in my head, except for those 3 or 4 character defects separated me from everybody else. You know, I was a little thrown off. I had no problem fighting people. I had no problem getting kicked out of places for, you know, acting crazy and things of that nature. And because I did those things, it separated me a little, so I had a little shine that would make up for not having much money or not having a lot of girlfriends, because I was known for something. And I remember saying, like, you know, to my sponsor, I said, well, I've been with my girl since 1999. I was 18, she was 16, right? So we're getting married in May. We're at 21 years we've been together. It's crazy. But I said, Eichmann, my girl's been with me for 15 years. Maybe she likes the character defects. If she didn't like them, she had ample opportunities to leave every time I went to jail, every 3 years. If you take that away, she might not want me no more. And I had a hard time. I couldn't believe I pulled her. I was going to lie to you, you know what I mean? And he was like, Ed, no, God, listen. She doesn't like the fact that you punch on people, make fun of people, and go to jail. No one's like that, except for you. But these things run through your head early on in Alcoholics Anonymous. It's like you think of these weird things like, well, maybe no one's going to, because I was known for this, and this. And now, you know, when you start hearing slogans like, nothing changes, everything's got to change. I'm like, oh, everything. I mean, people know me for certain things. But, man, I'll tell you what, when I got through that 4-step, man, I always believed in a higher power. I didn't really believe Alcoholics Anonymous was going to work. I thought this was a joke. I thought, actually, since I never walked in here before, that I was going to come in here, do the 12 things that were on the wall, and I would never have to come back again. I never really read Step 12 thoroughly. I said, 12 things? I can do that. Because I'm a natural-born quitter. I don't finish board games, basketball games. I'm a sore loser. I don't really finish anything. I said, I can get to 12 things done. and then I could just go about my life again and things of that nature. But I didn't believe God was going to help me because I thought I was kind of low on the list of people to help. Like, there was definitely some people that probably could have used the help before me, so I probably would have had to wait. I used to say to myself, I was getting no further than purgatory, no matter how hard I try from here on out. You know what I mean? Like, that's as far as I was going to get. And so I really didn't think that this was going to work too thoroughly. I believe my sponsor said, "You believe it worked for me?" He got a smile on his face. I know him from back in the day. He was pretty banged up, and I always thought I was better than everybody. So he was way worse than I was. If he can do it, I can do it. So, but when I got through my 4-step, and we did 5, 6, and 7 or whatever, I started noticing things or actions, the way I would normally react to certain situations that happen, I wasn't. My whole life, I never heard a voice say nothing's a bad idea, right? Like, everything was a great idea in my head. My voice and God's voice sound exactly the same, right? And it was like, take the old lady's purse, that's a great idea. Take your mom's wedding ring, fantastic idea. Everything was always a great idea. Once I did this 4-step, 5, 6, 7, a situation happened. I was living in a recovery house in Frankfurt, which is not the greatest neighborhood. And my natural instinct would, get violent with someone. And for the first time in probably since 93, did a voice in my head say, "It's not a good idea." I said, "What? Wait a second. Where'd that voice come from? Because it's always a great idea." That's a different voice saying that's not a good idea. And I remember every time I had a little instant like that happen to me, I'd call my sponsor and be, "Yo, I think this stuff really works." And be like, "Yeah, you think?" "Well, I think. Because listen, I definitely should have did something I shouldn't have did to that guy in that car, and I didn't do it." And that's what happened from doing a 4-step, right? 1, 2, and 3 are great. They're just decisions. Awesome. I hear people say, "All I have to do right is step 1." Not me. I need to get down to causes and conditions. I can admit that I'm powerless over alcohol all day long, but if I don't get rid of the reasons why I use them to drink, I'm done. Step 1 don't mean nothing to me if I don't do a 4-step, right? So once I start getting rid of all these things, I start feeling his presence a little more. I'm not hearing him talk to me. Obviously, it's not him talking to me, but for the first time, I can feel why I'm supposed to be here. Feel why I should answer something a certain way. And it was weird at first. I'm like, it could be coincidence, because I really wasn't. I ain't gonna lie, man. It seemed like I was a lot stronger than AA, and I don't think that they can do something for me that I couldn't do for myself. Yeah, it was hard to really believe that a group full of, my home group was crazy at the time, it wasn't Northeast Club, a group full of rejects down there would be able to have something that could help me. It was like beyond, like, I'm from a place where we have grass and 2-car garages and basketball. I'm not from underneath here where the train's in the air and things of that nature. Like, they ain't going to be able to help me. And back then, though, it was all fire back then. There was all people running around helping people. It's a little different now. It fell off a little bit, but I was blessed enough to be in an era where there was dudes running around helping people all crazy and taking people through the steps and taking commitments and doing all types of things, and it really helped me a lot in my early on in recovery. But so, after I do all the 4-step and I can start hearing these things now, I can start understanding, like, because I never understood why. There's so many people out there. There's babies, ladies with kids. Why don't they make it? Why do I make it? And listen, you can give me the book answer and the Bill Wilson story, like, at least you're still sober. That's only good to a certain extent, because we're from a place where not a lot of alcoholics, a lot of other kind of alcoholics who die off one drink. And it was getting really painful watching people die 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 times a week 2 years ago, that I didn't really want to hear, "Well, at least you're still sober." You know what I mean? And I never understood, like, and after a while, I remember I cracked my Bible open not so long ago, and in the front when I opened it up, it said, "What's your purpose?" And I was like, because I remember being in jail. I remember being in jail, and there was this big pastor there, and he was super big, and he seen me every 2 years in there. And he's like, "Kavanaugh, you're here again." I said, yeah, violation, blah, blah. And I remember him saying, "Kavanaugh, what's your purpose in life?" I said, "Take care of my family, be a good father, be a good son," whatever else I said. And he was like, you're doing a terrible job at that. Someone else is probably taking care of your kids. Your mom don't have a son. I was like, oh. And if this dude wasn't so big, and I was pretty big at the time, if this dude wasn't so big, it probably would have been a problem. But I'm smart enough to know that this big dude was definitely handled me, and I left it be where it's at. But inside my Bible, I said, what's your purpose? So I remember, I come home, I do the whole AA thing, and I remember flicking over and it said, what's your purpose? And I finally found out that, AA was my purpose. But, so real quick, back to the sex conduct part, the 4-step is the only one I didn't really talk about, and never really had a bunch of sex conduct issues. Me and my girl were in the same boat with the whole alcoholism thing. I guess she's a hard drinker because she stopped a couple years ago off her assisted alcoholism stuff, and she never picked up a drink ever again. She doesn't do recovery, and that's fine. But so we really didn't do nothing but sit in the house all day. There was no arousal, jealousy, suspicion, or bitterness. We didn't even want to look at each other. We had 2 kids. We were just trying to make sure they got some pizza rolls for a week to eat, and we weren't really, there was no real sex conduct issues going on there. What I will tell you is that sex conduct creeped up more after I got sober than it ever did my whole entire life, for obvious reasons of I finally look healthy, my skin's clear, I'm bigger, I'm actually looking people in the eyes. There might have been people staring at me for 15 years prior to that, but I was always looking at the ground, so I couldn't tell you, if there was anyone even making eye contact with me, because I was either looking for cigarette butts or change, or just looking down at the ground out of complete shame because I couldn't even hold my head high. And it was something to focus on. I used to have to go to a commitment at Ron and Dittman. It was my mandatory when I was in a recovery house. They used to have a big book at Holmesburg Rec there, and I learned a lot from the 2 people that did it there. And girls sat on one side, guys sat on the other side for the recovery house, and I would make sure I wore my freshest sneaks and my nice hat that matched my T-shirt and the oils I just got off the guy on the L train. I'm smelling all good, just to stare at the girls who are all the way across on the other side and staring at them and staring. And meanwhile, my wife's at home with my 2 kids, you know what I mean? She's doing the best she can. And I started hearing like the same thing over and over in the big book study about sex conduct. It has not always has anything to do about cheating on your wife or cheating on your girlfriend. It's asking did you arouse jealousy, suspicion, or bitterness, things of that nature. And, I sat there and I said, man, what am I really doing? I got a wife at home. She's taking care of my kids. She already took care of them for the last 2 years while I was in jail and came home. And I started paying a little more attention to it. And Rob Knopf hit us with it last week, too. He said, it even goes as far as, why even like your girl's picture on Facebook? You shouldn't even really, for him, he wouldn't even like a girl's picture on Facebook unless he's seen his wife liked it first. You know what I mean? If you want to really get down to why would I be liking another female's picture just because she's my friend or because she had that nice shirt on, or, how's it really go? And he said that last week, and it made me really think about it, because I took a bunch of girls through the steps in my time sober. 2 of them are still sober with multiple years. I always asked my wife first if I could, and she always said yeah, and I had this conversation with him, and he was like, did you think she was going to say no, Ed? You know what I mean? You kind of put her on a spot. She loves you. She loves the new you. She likes that you're in, recovery and wants you to stay sober. She knows that you helping people stay sober keeps you sober. You really think she was going to say no? And I'm like, And then right after that, some girl asked me, and I said, nah, man, I can't. I'm going to stop doing it, you know what I mean? Because my wife probably doesn't appreciate it. But at the time, I never really paid no mind to it, because I was brought up in AA with these dudes that were just take people through, get them through. That's your one job, you know what I mean? Your one job is to walk people through these steps and then go find another one. So I was always caught up in that, help. And believe me, it does help a long way when life situations pop up and things of that nature. Always helping people is my go-to. God don't really give me the answer right away a lot of the time, so me getting in the service or helping people, calling people, talking to people, usually would pass the time long enough for me to catch the sign that he's trying to throw at me to answer to my problems. And these are all things I learn along the way and going, man. And I'll tell you what, it makes a huge difference in your life, because when you get to 10 and 11, I'll tell you what, I'm not trying to pat myself on the back, but I got very little step 10. You know what I mean? And I got lesser step 11. I'm too afraid to even make it to 11 holding on to something. So I make sure when 10 happens, if something happens, I take care of it right now. There ain't no reason to hold on to that later on in the day. And then when I pray at night, then ask God for some correction. No, I handle that right away because I'm the type of alcoholic that needs very little reason to go back out. I'm the guy in the big book that, you know what I mean, they talk about. I need very, 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 very little reason. Like, very little reason to go. Not anymore, but I still have the same mindset as when I first came in. You know, some guy told me a long time ago, I got 25 years sober, right? And I'm like, oh, okay, yeah, that's great. Because time's cool. You can't cash it in when it's over, but, you know what I mean? It's definitely an accomplishment. I'm more of a what you're doing with your time that matters. But this guy said, I got 25 years sober. I do the same exact thing that I did when I got sober. You want to know why? I said, why? I said, because no one ever told me to stop. See, in the beginning, you're taking all these suggestions. I'll do whatever. I'll go to any victories or legs over alcohol. And then as time goes by, I'll let the new guy. He needs to commit more. I'll let the new guy take the sponsor. He needs to sponsor you more. One of the guys I looked up said, you need it just as much as he does. The newcomer is important, right? But he's not more important than every other person. You know what I mean? And because I was that guy. I'll let him take the chair. He has less time. Let him take it. I've already chaired meetings. And guess what? I got a daily reprieve. Can't rest on my laurels. I need it just as much as you need it, right? And these are the things that I learned along the way, man. And my friend Shannon used to say, she's like, you know, do your 4-step. You know, 12 and 12, like to say, some people do annual 4 steps. Me personally, if I'm doing 10 and 11, I'll have to do an annual 4-step. But if you want to, cool. I shouldn't be letting things pile up that I should need an annual 4-step. That's playing with fire for me. And she used to say it, like the 4-step says, now we're launching a course of action, which is a personal house cleaning. And she would say, if you clean your house on a Monday and you don't do a dish or pick up a shoe for a month, guess what your house is going to look like again? 10 and 11, doing the dishes, picking up the shoes. Why would I let something that drove me to drink my whole entire life build up so I need an annual 4-step? That's just me personally. Anybody can do whatever they want. Sure, recovery, you can read any book, do anything you want, but, you know, this is what worked for me, and, you know, so far so good. And I'll end it with this, man. Because I'm going to hear some other people shout. I don't know anybody up here. I walked in here in 2014, naive, willing to take any suggestion that you could possibly give. My number one thing for anybody new in here, and I don't know who's new, who's not, but taking suggestions was probably, and I'm not saying the 12 steps as a suggestion. That stuff is not a suggestion. In the book, it says it's a requirement, it's a necessary, it's vital. Don't say nothing about here, take these suggestions. Either you want what we have, or you can go outside and try some controlled drinking again. And when you come back, I'll be sitting here again saying, you're going to try the 12 steps, we're in a 12-step fellowship. You're going to actually try the 12 steps, you're just going to hang out and stay sober through osmosis, is what my friend used to say. Just by sitting on your keister, waiting for the miracle to happen, right? But, I actually drank so much in my life that I just forgot where I was even going with that. So, give me a second. Give me a second. 10, 11, 12, see, I'm lost. Well, I'll end it right there and let everybody share. That's all I got. Thanks for letting me share. I couldn't remember. I'm fried.
Thank you, Ed. Please limit your sharing to 3 minutes, and don't forget to remove your mask. Please keep your shares related to the step. If you feel like drinking, or if you have had a drink today, please see me or speak to someone after the meeting. We ask that you please refrain from the use of profanity. We're in a church and on a spiritual journey. With that, I'll open up the meeting.